Hi, my name is Steve. I'm an IT manager at Nice Heating and Air in Springfield, Virginia. The purpose of this video today is to try to explain to some companies how to manage their price books from inside ServiceTitan, as well as edit things they already have for those that have been with ServiceTitan for quite a while. Um, I'm going to be making 3 of those videos. This first video is going to be going over the basics and what everything in the interface does. While the second video, which is going to be in approximately 2 weeks, will be more to showcase the bulk update functionality, which is accessible straight inside ServiceTitan, and also the provider catalogs that will allow you to quickly add equipments to your price book. The third video will be more of a deep dive, a technical deep dive into how to edit your price book in Excel, which will give you very powerful tools in order to add new equipments or update your pricing in one fell swoop. It's very powerful, though that requires a decent amount of experience in Microsoft Excel or in Google Sheets. So right now, let's start with the basics. In ServiceTitan, under the pricebook section here, you're gonna have access to a whole bunch of things. Like here you have services, materials, equipments, discounts. They all have relations in between them. Now, for those that don't see some of the options here, like price setup, you might not see it. Discounts, same thing. Configurations differ from ServiceTitan to ServiceTitan. If you see options you'd like to have, ask your CSM. They can maybe help you enable it. So with that being said, let's get started. Under materials here, if you go look at a material, a random one here, I'm going to be seeing a whole bunch of properties here. The code always have to be unique. The codes in both equipment, materials, services, and the names of categories always have to be unique. And if you're using some accounting software like QuickBooks, you have a limit of characters too. Like this one, you have a limit of 31 characters. The name, it can be the same if you want, though I do recommend you make it different from one material and one item to the other. The description here is it's a description that shows on mobile and it also accepts HTML. If you have some knowledge of HTML, you can put some here, like bold, italic, which all applies here. You can even put an image. The price for materials, I believe the best practices is to not sell a material, but there is an option if you want to sell a material, which you can put the price here and will generate. It will generate with a price setup function feature. Hours here, like I said, if you sell a material, the hours will have something to do with it. Though in our case, for our company, we don't do that, so that is always 0. The income account is related to accounting. What do you want the item to deposit the money into for this material? The expense account is because you have a material that is usually a cost. So that is the expense account for that specific item, and that can be different from material to material. The asset account, that will differ depending on what you want. In other words, the asset account is if you use an item for inventory. Like this specific item currently is enabled for inventory, so this is just a demo account, but usually there would be an asset account specified here. A business unit. The business unit function here is to if you want an item to be specified as a different class. Like some companies might decide to have an item specified specifically as an item that is for install, for example. So if you want that, that business unit could be have the like the install class, which then once you set the business unit here, then once that item gets sold, even if the invoice is, let's say, a service invoice, that will still come in as an install revenue because the item is specified as, let's say, for example, it would be in other words, it's a way to override the invoice's business unit. You can use that. You can leave it blank if you want. That's just the option for you to add it. Categories. Categories allows you to specify a category for the material. For example, you have coils, you have bolts, you have, it's just a way for you to categorize it, and it has to do with the categories here, which we will go into later. Unit of measure. Unit of measure, to be completely honest, we've never used it because unit of measure is basically just for show, or as far as I could see anyway. The unit of measure will allow you to specify, and it's going to show under the reports. For example, if you want to say backs of screws, you want to say each screw. Or if you have it's a tank of gas, you can say per pound. It's things like that. Taxable, we've never used this feature because we bake the tax straight into our costs. But if your ServiceTitan is set to calculate taxes, then the taxes that you'd be able to check this and count this as a as a taxable item. Deduct as job cost. Exclude from the pricebook wizard, that has to do with the price setup function here. If you check this, the price setup function will not change the price of this feature. That's specifically if you want to use materials or services that you set the pricing to be something very specific, but you don't want it to move depending on like change of cost or change of the hourly wage or anything like that. Images, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's for you to add images to the product. Videos, same thing. Conversion tag. Hi, after the fact, Steve here. I'm adding this comment afterwards because I gave the wrong information on conversion tags. Conversion tags are used if you want a specific item in your price book. For example, let's say a filter that you want to track the conversion rate. You could set up a tag on your job that's called a conversion opportunity tag. Once that item gets added to the job, then it would flick over to another tag that you set here. That would allow you to see later on through reports how much of the opportunities you flip, compared to those that you did not. So that will allow you to compare that in reports later. The vendors here, you always need to have at least one vendor that is set as active and as primary. By default, you have the default replenishment vendor. You have your cost set here. The part number, that is just for your reference. So let's say, for example, a vendor would have a 14 SEER Goodman unit. Okay, the Goodman unit, let's say the part number for Goodman is G001. But the vendor uses the part, the SKU called L93. So which one do you use? You're gonna say, well, you put your own SKU here if you want, and just say part number being G001. And then if you save this, once you go over to the inventory section and you do a PO, this part will pop up regardless of which SKU you search. If you search for G001, this will show. If you search for whatever the other SKU was, it will show this as well. So it allows you to easily find an item in between vendors, if that makes sense. Now, you can set up multiple vendors if you want, but ServiceTitan, when you go to their reports, if you use like the aggregate inventory report, it will show the cost the inventory value based on the default one, unless you change the options. But I'm not going to go into that because this is already complicated enough as it is. Now, while I'm under services, let's go into the other columns here. Commission is if you want to specify commission, but like the message says here, this commission tab is going to go away sooner or later. If you do want to calculate commission for an item, I would strongly recommend you check with your CSM about configurable payroll. It's a very nice option, though it requires some fiddling, some work. So that's a whole other beast. Then inventory settings, that's if you want to enable it. And you have a couple of things here too. The inventory, right now this one is enabled, but if not, you'd have the option to enable it. Once it's enabled, it cannot be disabled. The way to disable it would be to duplicate this material and not set it as inventory. Though I think even duplicating it will make the duplicated one as inventory as well. So you need to actually remake it manually. Inventory templates here, you can set it in your min maxes. I'm not going to go into this because this is beyond the scope of this video, but that allows you to put materials in a truck, and there is no, I mean, that's it. But if you're not using inventory, this won't even show. Consume item on track. That is another one if you're tracking inventory. That means that once you transfer an item from a warehouse to a truck, what ServiceTitan is going to do if that item is set as consume is that it's going to transfer to the truck, and the truck's never going to show the part. And once you use the part on the invoice, it's not going to deduct either. Then you have custom payroll fields. Custom payroll fields, we're not, this is weird that pays commission is still here. It should not, because it's under commission. But custom payroll fields here would allow you to add custom payroll fields. Meaning if you use custom payroll, you can base the pay of someone depending on what they put on an invoice. And this is how it works. Again, this is outside of the scope of this video, but this also would be a place where you would be able to modify it. Now, materials, I would say, are very important, because those, on the biggest part, allows you to specify, I gotta try to explain this. They allow you to put your cost of your jobs, in other words, for them to be as accurate as possible, along with services and equipments. Let's right now go to services and explain how that works. Now, let's use this one as an example. Our service has a lot of the same fields as the material. You're gonna have the code, which again follows the same rule. It has to be unique, okay? And I believe also it has to be unique in between. So in other words, a service, this specific SKU cannot be used. It cannot be reused as a material or as an equipment. The name, it's up to you. The description, the same as the other one. It also accepts HTML. Warranty description also accepts HTML. It's very similar to item description, but it's going to show as the warranty in your price book, in your once your technicians go on mobile. It's very useful. So it allows you to set, all right, this is the warranty for this. Let's say 10 years, 10-year warranty on parts and 2 years on labor. Again, the check marks here are very similar to what we saw in materials. Like taxable, that allows you to set it if it's a tax. Allow discounts, that allows a discount, like you will see later that discounts can be percentage based, but it's possible to exclude some tasks from that the discounts. So this would apply to that. Labor service, it's the first time I see that. Labor services are used to set up labor types to automate labor charges for client-specific pricing. Honestly, I don't know what this does. But extrude from pricebook wizard, again, same thing as the other one. That is if you don't want a service to have its pricing built on... if you don't want the pricing, the pricing to be affected by the price setup. We're going to go over the price setup and the pricing builder later on. It's two features that do relatively the same thing, but come from different versions of ServiceTitan, if that makes sense. It's a little bit complicated. I will get to that. Now let's go down here. So the static price, that is, so you have static prices here, which then you can have dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing is related to pricing builder. So we'll just skim over that for now. Static price is for you to set up like a price for your service. That's going to be static price, the price if you're a member, if the customer is a member, an add-on, or an add-on price, or member add-on price. So 4 different versions of the price. That's used depending on how you use it. We don't even use the add-on. And our member price is set on a percentage on the member level. Honestly, there's multiple ways of doing member pricing, so it really depends how you're set up. Hours, that's going to be baked in, and it's very important. It is the rough estimate of how long you're gonna last. You're gonna take your time on a task. So for example, if you're saying here that installing this toilet takes 45 minutes, then you'd put 45 would be about 0.9 maybe, because you gotta think about it in like a percentage. Like this is gonna be 90% of an hour, if that makes sense. You can put like 0.45 as in 45 minutes, because that's roughly a little bit less than 30 minutes. So you're gonna want like 0. Let's say 90 or something like that. But you understand what I mean here. So minimum labor time here. Hold on, what is this one? Actually, yeah, there's no description. So minimum labor time, I honestly don't know what this does. A cross-sell group is actually, it says here, a grouping of similar items that you'll then be able to track how many each technician sold as separate columns in the technician performance board. So in other words, you could set up a group, like for example, thermostats, yeah, put all the thermostats into one, or then ACs, put all the ACs into one. It's a lot of organization, but if you want, you can track your cross-sell group this way. General ledger account, same thing as material, except services don't have costs. So this is just for revenue. Business unit, again, same thing as material, is if you want to override your invoices business unit for this specific task. It's up to you depending accounting wise. Categories, we'll go into it. Categories for services and equipments can be, it's like a tree. You can put a service category, then another one under it, then another one under it. We'll get to that after this, because this is another one that's, it's another section here. So upgrades, that's if you, once a technician opens this specific service, you can make it so that specific items would upgrade this one. It's a bit of like a recommendation if you want, but you're gonna have also recommendations that if they bought this, they can buy something that is relatively related to this one, but not necessarily an upgrade. In other words, it's a way to help your technicians upsell your services. And again, as the materials, you have your video or images and videos here, and then conversion tags. Commission, again, same thing as materials. It's the same exact thing. This one, I believe it still has some use, but as I said, it's likely to go away soon. Custom payroll fields, again, I don't have any here, but custom payroll would allow you to set up bonuses per used items in your invoices. Materials. Now, this is where the magic of services and equipments enter into play. You can put a service to automatically bring in a bunch, one or many materials. Like I could say, for example, I want this service to bring in those two items that are gonna have a total cost of $300. Once that's set, then once that service is added to an invoice, it's gonna automatically add those materials. And also, once the pricing of the pricing of that service will depend on everything that is attached to it, both the hours that you put on it and the materials that you have on here, and also equipments. You can put equipments on here, and it's also going to calculate the price of that service depending on those materials and equipments. The math for this is a little bit elaborate, but we'll see later on in the pricing builder that you can specify the pricing of a service based on the markup cost of the material and or the markup cost of the equipment, plus, you know, that apply to the material, plus after that you add the labor costs, and then that gives you your service price. So ServiceTitan will automate all of that, and it's with the new price setup, it's even going to show you the math. It's a really nice feature. So for now, I'm going to add this because this is going to be our test here. Workflow. Workflow is a bit of a magic one. For those that are good with integrations and with automations, this is one of a way for you to make things fire, I guess you could say. It's a strange way of putting it. But if you go here, you can set the service to automatically create and activate a membership. You can set it to renew a membership, adjust the membership being sold with the following changes. So if you have a membership on the invoice that you're being sold, you can add things to it. Like you can add a new recurring service or additional tasks, or you can do several changes to your invoice. But I think the most important thing that people don't know here is you can set it to apply a tag on a job or on a customer, or customer location or service agreement. You can set up a tag. It's a very powerful feature, that because tags in ServiceTitan allows you to then pull up a list of jobs or a list of customer files with the tags. Like for example, let's say you have an equipment and you want to set up some kind of order process. You could set this service to apply the like a needs to be ordered tag. Then as soon as that service gets added, it's gonna automatically add the tag onto the job or onto the customer or onto the whatever you would like to do. So this, in my opinion, is the most powerful feature here. I'm gonna cancel this for now. So now a service allows you to have both materials and equipments. Keep that in mind because we're going to equipments next. An equipment, as it says, it's for equipments like ACs or heat pumps or gas furnaces or coils or whatever you want. Anything, I would say anything that you want to track a serial number for is an equipment. So I'm going to go and edit the equipment here. Again, you're going to see a lot of the same fields that we've talked about earlier that in the other two. They're very redundant. Code, same thing, has to be unique and it's a maximum of 31 characters. Name. The type, that is where the fun of equipment starts. You can tell it for, if I go back under equipments here, you can add equipment types. For example, again, ACs, electrical panel, toilets. Well, toilet won't have a serial number, I'm assuming. But let's say ACs, coils, furnaces, heat pumps, they can track your serial numbers with this. Now, like I said, like with materials, you can also sell those directly, but I don't recommend it. Well, you can sell those directly if you want, but the problem is that right now, those don't work with the pricing builder. We'll get to the pricing builder and what it does and does not later on. I think it's going to be easier this way. So if I go under the equipment here, you can set, like I said, the equipment type, the capacity level. You can set an equipment, for example, an AC is going to be SEER. A furnace would be like BTU. You can make it so that it's much easier for your salesman to locate what they need. The tags, you can specify a tag for the equipment. In other words, under the customer file, there would be a tag for that, whatever you want. You can use that to track or just to make it easier to see. Up to you. All the power is to you. The brand, manufacturer, model, self-explanatory. Again, the pricing, same thing as the other. The hours work the exact same basic way as services. In other words, whatever hours you enter here with your hourly cost, it will generate the equipment price. The cross-sale group, again, same thing as materials. You can set it to specify how many of that you sold and whatever. It's going to be in your technician reports. The dimensions, I mean, again, purely self-explanatory. The height by width by depth is just how big you want it. Whether or not you want to use that, again, it's up to you. It doesn't really have any effect on anything else that I know. The SEER here is the SEER and then EER. Right now, this is SEER 1. Honestly, we use it also for SEER 2. It's just a general field that we use. And same thing here for that we saw under materials. The income account, whatever account you wanted to the revenue to come into. The expense is, again, same thing as the materials. Whatever the equipment, the expense account you want it to be for that material, and business unit, like the other two. If you want to override the invoices business unit, you do it here. Categories, we'll get to that again later. Categories allows you to categorize your equipment as you want it. Upgrades, recommendations, same thing as services. Unit of measure, Same thing as what we saw under the material. Taxable, if you use taxes, enable that. If you want to allow discounts, same thing as what we specified under services, you can allow discounts here. Exclude for pricebook wizard, same checkbox we seen earlier. Images, videos, same. The vendor here, again, you need a default one. For some reason, this one does not have one set, but this is a test account, so things are not 100% logical. I can enable it and just save it. Now, under commission here, again, same thing as we've seen under the other two tabs. Inventory settings, and equipment can be in an inventory if you'd like to. If you want to track it, which for most equipments, I'm assuming you would like to if you're using ServiceTitan to track your inventory. Custom payroll fields. That is currently blank because I think they don't have custom payroll enabled right now. But custom payroll will also allow you that if you can put a certain amount on equipment that's going to say, every time they sell, let's say that they sell this condenser, they're going to get $100. Then you could put $100 on the custom payroll field. Like in services, you can add materials to the equipment. Just be careful here. Like if you have a service that has an equipment, then once that equipment is brought in, the materials are going to be brought in too. So if you have materials set on the service too, you might duplicate the material. I hope it makes sense. You see what I mean though, probably. Manufacturer warranty and service provider warranty. It's similar to that field we've seen under services, but it's a bit more thorough. It allows you to set how long your warranty is for both manufacturers and service warranty. This will also set, this will also show in the customer file. And the description here is just a text description. Forms, you can set a form to fire every time this equipment is sold. That, you know, when they complete the invoice, it's going to say, hey, you need to fill that form if you want. That's part of the equipment. Now, let's go and see on categories. You have two different types of categories, service and equipments, and then materials. Let's go with materials first. I'm going to add a category here, say like test. Category for materials, I believe, can also be, let's see if they can be in the tree. Test 2. We don't use them like one below the other, like a subcategory, but let's see if it works. Yes, it can. So you can have, like, let's say, for example, ream, and then ACs, and then furnaces, and then coils, and then, but again, the names have to be unique. So always think of that when you make your categories. Like, for example, let's say I'm going to have ream, and then I can say here, ream ACs. And then I can say again, add a subcategory, ream furnaces. Let's say that you make a mistake and you add a category here and say, ream air handlers. And you're like, oh, man, I just created it as a root one. I want it under ream. All you're gonna do is, you see you have that little 6 dots here. You can take this, bring it over to the ream section. It's gonna add it to the category here. You can also set it to only be visible by specific business unit, and also set it to hide from mobile, and also set images. So that allows you to really heavily customize your price book in ServiceTitan. Now, everything that I've specified here, the same thing can be done under services. Like here, the HVAC one, let me try to add, like, again, add subcategories, ream, and then another one, let's say, subcategory, Goodman. Again, same thing. You can set business units, you can hide from mobile, you can set images. Very simple. Like I said though, once you add stuff like, for example, under ream here, I'm going to add, so I'm going to say ACs. And then let's say I want to add ACs on Goodman too. Let's say what it's going to say. ACs. Huh, let me do it. I thought it would not. I thought the names had to be unique for categories. Interesting. Well, I just learned something myself. So it seemed the names have, so The only thing I would say though is the name still needs to be unique on Excel, because if you add two categories of the exact same name, it's going to be very confusing for the system. So I would still recommend using unique names. It's in the end though, it's all up to you. It just makes it difficult if not to manage it in Excel. I still recommend having unique names. But categories, this, like I said, so you have two types of categories. You have materials and you have services. Under profile view here, once I go to, let's say, HVAC, I'm going to see Ream, and then I'm going to have my stuff. So let me see here. Why is it that it does not? This is, go to material. So HVAC, Ream. I'm not sure why this one does not show it. Let me see here. I'm going to close. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Oh, it's probably because if the category is empty, it might not show. Honestly, it's a bit, I don't know. Maybe it's just because the pricing, the mobile view doesn't show the last subcategory if it's empty. It's possible. I don't have anything in there right now. So next thing would be how to build your prices. So there's two things. Let me show you the old price setup. The old price setup allows you to specify, and that works for both materials and services. To say, for example, for all HVAC here, I want to set a billable rate of, let's say, $400, then a surcharge of 10, and then a member discount of, member discount again, that's to generate your member pricing for your services and your requirements. So again, let's say I repeat that, say 410. Once I go here, you remember that, what was that? Tickets, yeah, they all right now just set it to $10 because they have no material, which I thought I set a, so let's use this one here. I'm gonna go under the services here. Basic sys 1. I'm gonna set, let's say, the capacitor online here, and I'm gonna tell it that it's gonna take 1 hour. I'm going to go to price setup here and again do the same thing, and you're going to see now this task is different. So you'll be able to set the pricing based on your materials that you have set and your hour time that you've put on the material, on the service. So this allows you a lot of flexibility. And also we didn't actually look at, let's go under materials here. You might not have this in your account because again, this is the old way of doing markups. You can set a material markup that's going to be like $0 to $50. That's going to be a markup of, let's say, 25%. And then another one that's going to be 50.01 to let's say $100. That's going to be 23% markup. Well, just 23 is fine. So you can also add a markup on purchase orders. We've never used those, mind you. But the markups and materials, once you save this here, it will count it in the book. So I believe it's saved. It didn't tell me that it did, but let's say that it did. I'm going to go back here. You're going to see the prices have upticked a little bit. 569 here. Let me see here. Material. Let me just make sure that updated. Yep. All right. So let's try to tick it up a bit. I'm going to say 125% and 128. Let's say 500%. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go in HVAC, Ream, whatever, just HVAC completely. Okay, I don't remember what I put here. Let's say $500 with 10%, so $10 surcharge. So 510. Yeah, that will count in your material costs and all that stuff for that you put in your service, and will give you a spread out of price. Now, the price setup, unless you sell equipment directly, you should not use that. The reason why this is we're in a bit of a different specific state right now, a strange state, is that they just came out with the price setup, the pricing builder. So if I go into dynamic pricing here, and yeah, that's fine, create a rule, so I can say this is exactly what I wanted to see. If I go under HVAC here, I could say under HVAC here, all the HVAC stuff, I want the billable rate to be, let's say, $700 an hour. Yes, I'm very expensive. You can also use progressive rate, let's say, for example, from X hours to X hours being this. You can charge higher or lower depending on the amount of time you spend on the job. But let's say I'm going to go back to normal rate here. Click on next. Then again, I'm going to do the same thing as I've done earlier. Let's say to $200, I want it to be 50%. And then $200 to $999. I want it to be, let's say, 250%, just to make it very apparent. So, but I don't want it to be the gross margin. I want it to be percent markup. Again, same here, but I want to exactly the same as the material. Then I'm going to say, do you want to apply a surcharge? We've seen this in the old feature earlier. So the surcharge here can be either a static amount or a percent amount. Let's say here I'm going to say $10. Now you have additional functions here depending on how your business does their pricing. Different prices depending on if it's after hours, or if you want to services that are additional to another task, or if you want to set up a pricing level. Multiple ways of making it work. But I'm going to go ahead and just say, go ahead and apply. I'm going to name it equipment HVAC pricing. HVAC pricing. Go here. Now it's going to start. This is going to apply to any services that is under the HVAC section, unless they are excluded. So I'm going to show here, like for example, if I go under services here, I'm going to go, this one is under HVAC, so I'm going to go and check. And you're going to see this one here. It's under currently the price rule called HVAC pricing, and it generated a dynamic price of 948. You can even click on preview price, and it's going to show you exactly how it calculates its price. So this is a very, very powerful thing, a very powerful feature for you to set up your pricing in ServiceTitan. This does not show under the price setup function. Well, it doesn't show the breakdown anyway. So that's why they're trying to go to this as a main one, but the feature is not complete right now. In other words, it doesn't work for equipment and materials. But it will work if you're applying it to a service. Like I said earlier, it's complicated. If you decide a service that you don't want it to apply, you could you can just check the little box here, and it allows you to set up a static price for the item. But for now, let's leave it to this. So I've alluded to this earlier, but what happens to the price of the service once it's added to an estimate? It becomes static. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say later on, I'm going to go ahead and update the hourly to something higher, which is going to change the price of the service. Whatever estimates are currently they're currently open or sold or whatever, are going to remain the same price, unless you're going to see under an estimate. Let's say, and I'm going to try to find, I don't know if I have an invoice that has a, let me see if I have one. Estimates. I don't know if they created some for me. Estimate. Let's say I'm going to add this one here. I think we might already see some of it. You see the little, if you see the little yellow arrow exclamation marks here, that allows you to say, all right, your price has changed. If you want, I can update it. Now, this one is not one that is in my rules, so it would update to the basic price of $10. So that doesn't exactly, this is not what we want. But this is how you would update your pricing once you changed it, if you want to update it for your existing estimates. So let's say I wanted to update this one. It's going to update down to $10. Okay, so it brought it down. But this is how you do it on an estimate. This is how your pricing would get generated. Yeah, so this is about it for the basic dive. You have also templates here that you can set up estimate templates, but that has nothing to do with the book itself. That's for you, your technicians to sell estimates and proposals. Um, the history allows you to see the history of changes you've done to your book. So there's a lot of things here. We'll go into more in depth about the history and the import on the third video, while the Pricebook Connect is going to be on the second one. Serialization here, we're going to go a little bit over that on the third video once we import. On the third video, I intend on trying to import a bunch of ACs for Goodman so that I can show you how it is done in Excel and how it imports. So this is it for this. Oh yeah, you have discounts and fees. Discounts and fees, it's very simple. The way that it works is that you can set up a discount or fee that is either static price or a fixed amount or a percentage. In other words, any item that is on the invoice that is not set to, that is currently set to allow discounts, will see their their amount discounted on the invoice by either a static amount or a percentage. So yeah, this is it about the basic dive. The next video will dig more into the provider catalog. Thank you.